Hello and welcome to Thursday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where we've got a very, very cool looking puzzle for you today. It's called Killer Heyawake and it's by Kit. And I am excited about this one because I absolutely love the logic puzzle Heyawake. For those of you who don't know or aren't familiar with it, it was invented by the Japanese company Niccoli way back in the day, and I used to play Heyawakes every day when Niccoli was publishing daily puzzles, because it's just such a cool and interesting logic puzzle, and it'd be very suitable actually. In fact, did they have one in the have they done one yet in the genuinely approachable pencil puzzle series? I'm not sure, but if they haven't, they definitely should, because it's just gorgeous. And Kit somehow managed to implement Heyawake rules with a Sudoku. So this, I mean, if this works, if this actually works, this puzzle, and it's a pleasant solving experience, and I think it should be, the testing reports are that it's a great puzzle, then I hope this will create a craze for these. Anyway, I'll read you the rules in just a second. Couple of things to mention. Firstly, I want to say thank you. Many of you have been tweeting to us that you've received your book, and you know, this gives us so much pleasure. I cannot tell you. You know, I never thought I'd be involved in the production of a book. You know, it was something I guess was a pipe dream, but it never a reality. And now there really is a book, and it's a book that Mark and I are really proud of, because it really is. Have I got it on my desk actually? I normally do have. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. You know, it is actually really nice. You know, if I open it, hopefully you can see. It's really cool. The art is really cool. And you know, when people tweet to us about how happy they are about getting this book, it is like somebody praising your child. It's really a thrill. So thanks very much to all those of you who've given us a little moment of happiness in these glum times. And by the way, yeah, I'll just add a little addendum there. Sudoku is very good at getting you into something called a flow state. What is a flow state? It's something where you are totally absorbed in it, totally distracted from whatever's going on in the world. And this is a good time for things like Sudoku to exist. So if you know anybody who's struggling with the general anxieties of life, and goodness knows there are reasons why people might struggle in the world at the moment, maybe try them with a Sudoku. Get them to watch a video or two on the channel, because you never know, it could make real differences to some people out there. Anyway, that wasn't what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say apart from that was, oh yeah, have all of you tried Negativity by Jovial? So we talked about this in yesterday's video. You really should have a go at it. It's a classic Sudoku with a very, very unusual trick. We've done a video on Patreon that explains that trick. I read the comments on yesterday's video with interest to see if anybody had identified the trick. I will tell you, I didn't see anybody who had. So there is a trick to this. It's a bit of a naughty trick, but it is there. And yeah, there's a video on Patreon where we talk about that, and you can see Mark's solve of it, which doesn't involve the trick, and you can see how difficult it is if you don't need the trick to solve it. But yeah, have a go at that. There's a link to this under the video. Now, the other thing we've got on Patreon at the moment is, of course, our monthly reward for December. Many of you have already solved those puzzles, and the feedback on those has been great, so very well done. If you haven't tried them yet, they're over there right now, and you've got till December the 20th to send us an answer and to be eligible to win a prize. Now, all that said and done, let's get on with Killer Heyawake by Kit, and I'll read you the rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. Digits cannot repeat in cages or along the main marked diagonals. So along this diagonal, for example, we've got to make sure we put the digits 1 to 9 once each. Each cell in the grid must be shaded dark or light according to the following rules. So this is the Heyawake piece, I'm guessing. 1. Within cages, the dark cells will sum to the cage's total if given. Within cages. Okay, so in this cage here, obviously it's not like a normal killer cage, because we can't make 6 different digits add up to 10. The minimum 6 different digits can add up to is 21. So we have to shade some cells or darken some cells in this cage such that the darkened cells sum to 10. So if we darkened those ones, then those 3 digits would add up to 10, is what we're being told. Now, I deliberately didn't put those shaded cells orthogonally adjacent to one another because of the rules of Heyawake, because of the next rule too. Dark cells may not be orthogonally adjacent to one another. So that is very important. What you can't do is shade those two. That would not work because, well, it straightforwardly breaks the rules of Heyawake. 3. All the light cells must be orthogonally connected in a single group. So what's this telling us? Well, this is telling us something that is crucial if you've ever done a Heyawake problem. So what you could not do is shade those cells, because then this cell, being unshaded, cannot connect to any other unshaded cells in the rest of the grid. So we've got to make sure that however we do this, what might be another way of showing this? If we had those 3 shaded in, and you can see that well, this would be unshaded because it's next to a shaded cell. This would be unshaded, and now these 2 cells could never attach to any unshaded cells in the rest of the grid. So the unshaded cells have to all connect together in an orthogonally adjacent way. Now, orthogonal just means connected along a long edge, by the way. So what you can't do, if the only way of connecting to unshaded cells was like this, they are not orthogonally connected. They would become orthogonally connected if you added this one, because now you can connect this one to this one via long edges. Now, what else? A straight orthogonal line of light cells cannot span across more than 2 cages. Right, This is the most complicated part of the Heyawake rule, and I can see immediately, for example, something interesting there. That would be impossible. One of these cells in this puzzle, at least, must be shaded, because if not, we've got 3 light cells there going across 3 different cages in a straight line, and that breaks the rules of the puzzle. So we would have to break that up, for example, like this. And now that would be fine. So just make sure we don't have 3 in a row. 5. The dark cells along the 2 main diagonals must sum to the same total. Okay, so that's not so much a Heyawake rule. But basically whatever we shade along this diagonal, we sum up that, and it must be equal to whatever we get along this diagonal when we've darkened those. And we sum those. So that's the rules. Quite interesting and quite complicated, but do have a go at the puzzle. The way to play is to click the link under the video, and now I get to play. Let's get cracking. I've been looking forward to this one. So the 35 is the biggest number by miles in this puzzle. So that's telling us we have to darken cells. Oh, yeah, okay. This is absolutely forced, because what's the minimum number of darkened cells, therefore, in box 5 of the grid? Well, the minimum number of cells I'll need to get to a total of 35 is 5, because I'll need 5, a 6, a 7, an 8, and a 9. But that's interesting in terms of the Heyawake rules immediately, because you cannot, in a 3x3 region, you cannot shade more than 5 cells without connecting 2 of them orthogonally, and you can see that if we do it as efficiently as possible. Now I'm just thinking about this, because I'm going to have to shade dark and light, and I want to be as colorblind friendly as possible, so I will use blue and orange, which I think are the best ways of doing this. So these are going to be my dark cells. Now I've got 5 dark cells there. What if I wanted to put in a 6th? Where am I going to put it? The answer is I can't put it anywhere, because if I try and put it in any of these cells, I'll cause a connection between darkened cells, an orthogonal connection, which is against the rules of the puzzle. So this is the only way I could possibly, well, this is the maximum number of darkened cells I could ever put in box 5, and it must indeed be that number because I need 5 of them to get to a 35 total. So those are 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9 straight away. They are 1, 2, 3 and 4 and are unshaded. Right, I already love this puzzle, by the way, because this is an absolutely classic Heyawake puzzle pattern. It comes up all the time in a sort of logical if you ever do these puzzles, all of those are now orange. Now the reasons are, well, there are two reasons for that. Firstly, obviously, when you have a darkened cell, a blue cell, every orthogonal cell to that blue cell must be light, because otherwise you'd have two connected blue cells, and we can't do that. Secondly, think about this cell, and this cell, and this cell, and this cell. How could this cell connect to its friend if this square was blue? It can't. There's no orthogonal connection for this with an orange cell, which isolates it. We mustn't isolate, so we have to make sort of these strings of oranges around the middle box. Okay, we can keep going, because now that box needs a shaded cell because it's got a 7 in it. So that's a 7. That box needs a shaded cell. So that's a 9. That's a 6. Exactly the same logic. So we're sort of working our way around the Fistmafell ring. We can put an 8 into that one. We can write a 5 into the middle cell of the grid now, because there's now a 6, 7, 8 and 9 on the diagonals all looking at it. So there we've got loads going on. We've got an 8, 9 on that diagonal, so that we can remove 6 and 7 from the others. I've got... Okay, so now I've got 35 in terms of the shaded cells on this diagonal, and 35 on that diagonal. So whatever I shade on the rest of this diagonal, I've got to make sure adds to the same number as we shade up on the other diagonal. But first, before we think about that, let's complete the shading. We've got to make sure everything that is blue is orthogonally adjacent to an orange. So now, well, I can see a small Heyawake trick here with the 10. The 10 must be at least 2 cells, because we have to get the shaded cells up to a count of 10, and here is a knowledge bomb from Cracking the Cryptic. 10 is not a valid digit in a Sudoku, so I can't just shade one cell in this cage and put 10 in it. That won't be right. So we know that the 2 cells, we can't possibly shade 3 of these 4 cells and keep them, keep all the blues having non-orthogonal connections. So we've either got that arrangement, that's one possibility, or we've got this arrangement. That's the second possibility. Now, whichever way round that we go with this, these 2 cells will always be orange. And let's prove that. So if it was this way round, this square is clearly orange, but this square needs to attach to its friends. So this square is also orange. And of course, this square is orange because it's next to a blue square. So you can see, hopefully, that those are always forced to be orange. Now, obviously, if I reverse the logic and just turn this round this way, we can just run that logic in reverse and we'll still get to that same conclusion. So these 2 must be orange. And you're quite right if you're now saying that's a complete chocolate teapot deduction because it does nothing. It would do something if we knew it was that way round, because it would create sort of a wall of blue coming down the grid, and then we'd have to be careful about connectivity. But I don't actually think we know which way round those 2 go. I've got a lot of cages which we don't actually even know the total of at all. It's a very beautiful grid though. I'm actually just looking at it now and I'm just appreciating for the first time how symmetrical it is. It's incredibly symmetrical. 8 could be just a single cell. This 8 could be a single cell. My phone's going crazy. Oh, hang on. There's a 10 cage here. Right. Well, this is forced because this must have 2 shaded cells in it, and we can't connect them. So those must be the shaded ones. Then we can put unshaded in the orthogonal next to them. Now, what about this cell? How does this connect to its friends? It must come out through an orange here. Oh, right, this is lovely. This is lovely. Right, now look at that string of digits. This is, well, we've got orange here, orange here. If we made this orange, we would break the rule. We can't have a straight line through three cages of unshaded cells. So this square here has to be blue. And oh right, now we're cooking with gas, because two things. Firstly, this is orange. This needs to connect to its friends, so that's orange. Secondly, let's come back to the 10 again, because now we have created a wall of blue. Look, this is a wall of blue. So if I put the two shaded cells in this cage that way round, I've created the great wall of blue. And I mustn't create great walls of blue, because this orange will never connect to this orange orthogonally now. It's walled off by the wall of blue. So we now know the ordering of those two. It's got to be that way round. All of those become orange. Right, this square must be a 4 because we haven't put anything into this one yet. So that is actually a blue 4. Ah, I see. So now those two squares have got to add up to 10 without being 4, 6 or 3, 7. So this is either, and we can't put 8, 9 on the diagonal, so that's a 1 or a 2. This is an 8 or a 9. There's an 8 here. So this is a 9, this is a 1. That 1 is shaded. So we must have at least another shaded digit on this diagonal now, because we've now got an unequal total on the positive and the negative diagonals. That's a 3. Oh, sorry, I should have seen that immediately. It's the only shaded cell in the 3 cage. Right. Okay, now let's think about great walls of blue again. Not great balls of fire, great walls of blue. Because, yeah, that works. How could this ever be blue? The answer is it now cannot be, because if it's blue, this 10 cage must have a second digit at least, which is blue, and that would either now have to be here, creating a wall of blue, or here, creating a wall of blue. Do not create great walls of blue, so that must be orange. And there's one blue in here and one blue in there. Right. Right, well I can see a small deduction from that, which is that now this cage cannot have a blue cell in it. And that's because if you had to put 2 blues into this 2 by 2, they're either going to be like that and create a wall of blue, or they're going to be like that and create a small great wall of blue, because that orange can never get out to its friends. So that means this is all orange. Although again, I sort of feel like that is a very elaborate deduction for not very much win, is it? We've not really got much from that. Okay. Here's another small deduction that comes from the geometry of, or that sort of triple cage trickery. This square cannot be shaded, because if that's shaded, we're going to have to create a line going from here to here in order to not create a great line of blue, and that would cross, those 3 oranges would cross 3 different cages, so that's not going to work. That's got to be orange, and that's a little bit interesting, because it tells us there's, oh no, it's very interesting, because it tells us there's an 8. This cannot be 2 shaded cells adding up to 8. So it's 1 shaded cell adding up to 8, and there's an 8 already on the diagonal. So that's an 8, and it's blue. Therefore, those 2 become orange. This has got to now be orange, or it won't allow this one to connect. So that's orange. Now we have almost got the small sort of. If this was orange, we'd cross three cages again. So that must be blue. Those must be orange. We must not create great walls of blue, so this can't be blue. Otherwise, look, we've created a great wall of blue again. That's orange. Now this square must be blue to stop 3 in a row going across there. That's therefore orange. This is now exactly the same. We can't have 3. If this is orange, we cross in a straight line 3 cages entirely, which is against the rules. So that forces that forces that. Those 2 squares add up to 10. We know this cannot be a high digit because of the diagonal. So this is a low digit of the 10. That's a 1, 2, 3 or 4. And this is a high digit, so that's not a 2 because this can't be an 8. So that's a 6, 7 or 9. I don't know how to do that. But okay. Oh, this is, I tell you what, Kit, this is a very, very beautiful puzzle. It really has been put together so carefully, because now let's have a look down here at this 8 cage and ask, could this 8 total be made up of 2 cells, 2 shaded cells? No, because they'd have to be there, and we've created the Great Wall of Blue again. So this is a single total of 8. It's a single shaded cell of 8 in this cage. Well, that 8 sees 5 of the cells in that cage, so it must be there with a blue. All of those become orange. That 8's fixing the middle box. 9 goes here, 8 goes here. Okay. And now I'm wondering whether I can run the same argument with this square that I ran over here with this square, because if that square is blue, I know I've got to connect this square, for example, with its friends over here. So this would have to be a line of 3 oranges, which is impossible, because that's 3 cages we've crossed with 3 oranges in a straight line. So that square is not in. That must be orange. Now this 7 is a single 7. Yes, it's the same. It's the same. It's beautiful. It must be a solitary 7. It can't be on the diagonal because of this 6, 7 pair. So that is a blue 7, which means those 3 squares all turn orange. Now this 3 cannot be a 2-cell 3, because that would be a 1, 2 pair like that and create another wall of orange. So it's a solitary 3, and this 3 does it. Where does the 3 go in this cage? It's a shaded 3. It's got to go there, which means that square's orange. I presume this one is orange, or we create a wall. This square is blue, or we create a line of 3, and we've done it. Well, we haven't done the puzzle, but we've done the Heyawake shading straight off the bat. That's absolutely beautiful. And now we're going to do... What are we going to do now? Now we're going to remember that adds up to 36. So these shaded cells on the other diagonal must add up to 36. That square is a 1. That square is a 9 to make 10. 9 is placeable in box 6. Don't know if we can go further than that. We probably can. I can't see how to do it. Okay. Okay, what do we do next? Sudoku, that's got to be an 8. I'm wondering at 3 8 pair here by Sudoku, 8 here by Sudoku, 3, well, what are those squares now? They're 2, 5 and 6 by Sudoku. So that's a 1, 4 pair by Sudoku. We've got a 1 on this diagonal. Beautiful. So that's 4. That's 1. That's not 1 anymore. We need 2 and... oh, look. Yeah, on this diagonal, the only digits we've not placed are 2 and 3, and there's a 3 there. So that's 2. That's 3. What about the other diagonal? Yeah, okay, I wrote 2, 5 and 6 into here, forgetting that I've already got 5 and 6 on that diagonal. So that's a 2. So these 2 squares must be 3 and 4, and we've got a 4 here. 4, 3. 4 must be in one of those cells. This puzzle is gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous. No, 3 comes out of that square. Because it's not rock hard, or at least it's not yet. But it's just so elegant, and it's such a clever illustration of how you can create a Sudoku puzzle that overlaps with the Heyawake. The Heyawake the logic was gorgeous, and the way it interacted with the Sudoku was gorgeous. Yes, I suppose this is a bit of an appeal, that this isn't the last one of this form that we see. Oh, we've got 10 there, which is not 2, 8 or 1, 9. So this is either, oh, or 3, 7. So this is 4, 6, and there's a 4 there. Right, we know what this is. This is 4, that's 6. 4 comes out of those two squares and into one of, oh, whoopsie, I didn't mean to do that. 4 is in one of those two cells. 6 resolves to 6, 7 in the centre. So 7 is in that domino in box 6. 8 is in this domino in box 4. This 6 is doing the 6 and the 5 over there. So suddenly we're actually doing quite well here. What about this row? We need 2, which can't go there, look, because there's already a 2 in this cage. 2, 7 and 9. So that's a 7 or a 9, I think. Can't see if we can improve on that. So these are 2, 7 and 9. We could have got this a bit more easily. Look, 7, 9, 7, 9. Where do you put the 7, 9 in this box? And it's got to be in that exactly those two squares. So that's a 7, 9 pair. So the rest of this box needs to be 1, 2, 3, and 5. So that square, 1, 2, 3, is a naked single. That has to be 5. Which means these 3 squares are a 1, 2, 3 triple. I've now got a 1, 2, 3 triple in column 5, which means we know these cells at the bottom. These cells at the bottom should be 6, 7, and 9, so that's a naked single. That's a 7. This is a 6, 9 pair. What about those squares? 1, 5, and 6. No, that's probably not where we should be looking, actually. That doesn't look like it's doing anything. Oh no. No, alright, what about those two then? 4 and 5? Yes, that's good. We've got a 4 here. So 4 and 5 can go into the grid. So we now know 4 lives in one of those cells. We know that this row, perhaps, we've already got 6 digits in it, so we need 6s, 7s and 9s. That square is a 7 or a 9 because it sees 6, so 6 is a naked single or hidden single in box 1. So this column perhaps now, where we need 1s, 2s and 7s, almost interesting. That's a 1 or a 2, that's a 2 or a 7, and that's a 1, 2 or a 7. What about... Oh no, don't get stuck now, Simon. Where shall we look? This row? That square is quite restricted because it sees so much in its cage, look. So what's that? What are the options for this square? It can be 2. It can't be 3. It can't be 4, 5 or 6. Oh, it's a 2. That's a naked single. That can only be 2. So that's not 2, which means that's a 2. Which means that's a 2, that's a 7, and that's a 1. That's beautiful. So now I've got a 2, 3, 4 triple in box 5. That's become a 1. Is that helpful? Maybe to row 4. We'll check that in a second. Let me just see if I can see anything else. That's definitely not a 4, because there's a 4 in one of these two cells. Okay, so what do we need along row 4? We need 4, 5 and 6. So that's only got the ability to be 4 and 5. That's got the ability to be 5 and 6. And of course that's got the ability to be 4, 5 or 6. Bobbins. Okay. So, where should we look now? 7 is giving us a 7 in that box, if I trust my pencil marks. Oh, so maybe I can do a similar trick with this, can I? This column is saying this is a 4, 5 or a 6, but there's a 4 here seeing this square. So that's 5 or 6, and it sees 6. I can. 5, 6, 4, 5, 6. So there's a 5 in one of those two squares. These two squares are now a 2, 8 pair, which we can probably do, but I can't see how. This 6 is doing some work down there, so this has become a 1, 5 pair. This 6 is seeing the 6 and the 9. 9. So there's a 9 in one of those two cells. Have we used up all of the sort of killer cage logic as well? That's the other thing we've got to be aware of. In terms of the shading, I mean, have we actually done everything now? Maybe we have. What about this row? We need 1, 4 and 5. That's a naked single then. That seems to have to be a 5. It sees 1, 4 in its column. So this is a 1, 4 pair. I don't know if we can do that. I can't see how to do it. And these 3 squares remain in box 7 are a 1, 7, 9 triple. So the 7 here is huge. Okay, so that's 7, that's 1, and that's 9. And that 9 fixes the 9, 7 at the top, which fixes the 7, 9 here. These squares now, look, have got to be 6 and 8, and there's a 6 here. Beautiful. 6, 8, 8, 2, 3, 2. So these become a 2, 4 pair, which means we must know this square. That's got to be a 3, and that's got to be a 4. And now, I've got, oh look, I've got all the high digits in column 4, so this must be a low digit. This is a 1 or a 2, and there's a 1 in its cage, so it's a 2. That's a 2, 4, that's a 1, 4, that's a 1, 3, and I think we're there, aren't we? 1, 5, 5 here, 3 here. Click, tick. Yay! That's beautiful. Hats off, Kit. That was really classically clever. Loved every moment of that. The Heyawake portion, it's just the perfect level of difficulty, because I think for some people watching this video who've never done Heyawake before, I'd be very interested in your comments on how easy you found that rule set to get your head around. But I think for people who are experienced with Heyawake, it's also just it's such a cool refresher. The way it exploits the Sudoku logic, the way, you know, you can just do this central box and immediately get this very common pattern from there. And you know, then the connectivity is really cool. You sort of create, you have to, you know, there's a Great Wall coming that you have to avoid. Starting here, we've got to avoid the Great Wall of Blue, and the Great Wall of Blue was a possibility throughout. Absolutely brilliant, really cool. Let me know in the comments how you got on. I do enjoy them, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.